System. Concept of trophic level in an ecosystem. A trophic level refers to the position of an organism in the food chain. The number of trophic levels is equal to the number of steps in the food chain. The green plants, that is called producers, occupying the first trophic level, that is T1. Energy produced by the producers is utilized by the plant eaters called primary consumers and occupy the second trophic level, that is T2. Herbivores are eaten by carnivores which occupy the third trophic level, T3. They are called secondary consumers or primary carnivores. Carnivores are eaten by the other carnivores which occupy the fourth trophic level. They are called tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores. Some organisms which eat both plants and animals are called omnivores. Example, crow. Such organism may occupy more than one trophic level in the food chain. Next one is energy flow. The transfer of energy in an ecosystem between trophic levels can be termed as energy flow. It is the key function in an ecosystem. Energy flow is always unidirectional in an ecosystem. The storage and loss of energy in an ecosystem is based on two basic laws of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy can be transmitted from one system to another in various forms. Energy cannot be destroyed or created, but it can be transformed from one form to another. As a result, the quantity of energy present in the universe is constant. For example, in photosynthesis, the product of starch, that is chemical energy, is formed by the combination of reactants such as chlorophyll, water and carbon dioxide. The energy stored in starch is required from the external sources, that is light energy, and so there is no gain or loss in total energy. Here light energy converted into chemical energy. Second law of thermodynamics. It states that energy transformation results in the reduction of the free energy in the system. Usually, energy transformation cannot be 100% efficient. Example, 10% law. This law was proposed by Lindemann in the year 1942. It states that during transfer of food energy from one trophic level to other, only about 10% stored at every level and rest of them 90% is lost in respiration, decomposition and in the form of heat. Hence, this law is called 10% law. Look at this example here. 1000 joules of solar energy trapped by producers. 100 joules of energy is stored as chemical energy through photosynthesis. The remaining 900 joules would be lost in the environment. In the next trophic level, herbivores which feed on producers get only 10 joules of energy and the remaining 90 joules is lost in the environment. Likewise, in the next trophic level, carnivores which eat herbivores store only 1 joule of energy and the remaining 9 joules is lost. Finally, the carnivores are eaten by tertiary consumers which store only 0.1 joule of energy and the remaining 0.9 joule is lost in the environment. Thus, at the successive trophic level, only 10% energy is stored. This law is called 10% law. Next one is food chain. The movement of energy from producers up to top carnivores is known as food chain. That is, in any food chain, energy flows from producers to primary consumers, then from primary consumers to secondary consumers, and finally secondary consumers to tertiary consumers. Hence, it shows linear network links. Generally, there are two types of food chain: grazing food chain and detritus food chain. Main source of energy for the grazing food chain is the sun. It begins with producers, that is plants. The second link in the food chain is primary consumers. Example, mouse, which get their food from producers. The third link in the food chain is secondary consumers. Example, snake, which get their food from primary consumers. Fourth link in the food chain is tertiary consumers. Example, eagle, which get their food from secondary consumers. But in the detritus food chain begins with dead organic matter, which is an important source of energy. A large amount of organic matter is derived from the dead plants, animals and their excreta. This type of food chain is present in all ecosystem. Next one is food web. Interlocking pattern of a number of food chain is called food web. Example, grazing food chain. Next topic is ecological pyramids. A graphical representation of the trophic structure and function at each successive trophic levels of an organism. The concept of ecological pyramids was introduced by Charles Elton in the year 1927. Thus, they are also called Eltonian pyramids. There are three types of pyramids: pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass and pyramid of energy. A graphical representation of the number of organisms present at each successive trophic level in an ecosystem is called pyramids of number. There are three different shapes of pyramids. They are upright, spindle and inverted. There is a gradual decrease in the number of organisms in each trophic level from producers to primary consumers and then to secondary consumers and finally to tertiary consumers. Therefore, pyramids of number in grassland and pond ecosystem are always upright. In a forest ecosystem, the pyramid of number is somewhat different in shape. It is because the base trophic level 1 of the pyramid occupies large size trees, that is producer, which are lesser in number. Herbivores, trophic level 2, fruit eating birds, elephant, deer, etc. occupying second trophic level are more in number than the producers. In final trophic level T4, tertiary consumers, lion, are lesser in number than the secondary consumer, that is T3, fox and snake, etc. Therefore, the pyramid of number in forest ecosystem looks spindle shaped. The pyramid of number in a parasite ecosystem is always inverted because it starts with a single tree. Therefore, there is gradual increase in the number of organisms in successive trophic levels from producer to tertiary consumers. Next one is pyramid of biomass. A graphical representation of the amount of organic material present at each successive trophic level in an ecosystem is called pyramid of biomass. In grassland and forest ecosystem, there is a gradual decrease in biomass of organisms at successive trophic levels from producers to top carnivores. Therefore, these two ecosystems show pyramids as upright. However, in pond ecosystem, the bottom of the pyramid is occupied by the producers, which comprise very small organisms possessing the least biomass, and so the value gradually increases towards the tip of the pyramid. Therefore, the pyramid of biomass is always inverted in shape. Pyramid of energy. A graphical representation of energy flow at each successive trophic level in an ecosystem is called the pyramid of energy. The bottom of the pyramid of energy is occupied by the producers. There is a gradual decrease in energy transfer at successive trophic levels from producers to the upper levels. Therefore, the pyramid of energy is always upright. So, what are the pyramids are upright? Pyramids of number in grassland and pond ecosystem are always upright. Similarly, pyramid of biomass in grassland and forest ecosystem are also upright. Then pyramid of energy is are also always upright. Next one is decomposition. Decomposition is a process in which detritus matters such as dead plants, animals and their excreta are broken down into simple organic matter by the decomposers. It is an essential process for recycling and balancing the nutrient pool in an ecosystem. Mechanism of decomposition. Decomposition is a stepwise process of degradation mediated by enzymatic reactions. Detritus acts as a raw material for decomposition. It occurs in many steps. First one is fragmentation, the breaking down of detritus into smaller particles by detrivores like bacteria, fungi and earthworm is known as fragmentation. Second step is catabolism, breaking down of complex into smaller ones by the enzymes is known as catabolism. Next step of catabolism is called leaching or eluviation. The movement of decomposed material to the lower level of the soil is known as leaching or eluviation. Next step is the humification. It is a process by which simplified detritus is changed into dark colored substance called humus. Last step is mineralization. Some microbes are involved in the release of inorganic nutrients from the humus of the soil. Such process is called mineralization. Factors affecting decomposition. Decomposition is affected by climatic factors like temperature, soil moisture, soil pH, oxygen and also the chemical quality of detritus.